Hello Blues fans, welcome back to the Blues Hub, your home for the latest Chelsea transfer news, updates and everything happening around Stamford Bridge. Today we have a major story surrounding Alex Scott and Adam Wharton, with Chelsea reportedly considering a huge £170 million investment to bring both midfielders to the club. But the big question is, can Scott and Wharton really help Chelsea create more chances and score more goals under Xabi Alonso? Stay with us as we break down everything you need to know about this developing Chelsea transfer story. If you are a Chelsea fan, make sure you subscribe to the Blues Hub, like this video and share it with other Blues supporters. Chelsea ready? £170 million. Double midfield move for Alex Scott and Adam Wharton. Can they really help Xabi Alonso score more goals? Chelsea are preparing for another major decision in midfield as the club continue to look at Alex Scott and Adam Wharton as two potential additions to Xabi Alonso's squad. Reports have indicated that Chelsea have made fresh contact regarding both players, with the two English midfielders remaining on the club's radar after more than a year of interest. The latest discussions surrounding Chelsea suggest that the club could be willing to invest as much as £170 million to bring both players to Stamford Bridge, while that figure should be treated as a scenario rather than a confirmed completed deal. It demonstrates the level of ambition being associated with Chelsea's midfield plans. But there is one important question Chelsea supporters must ask. If Chelsea spends such a huge amount on Alex Scott and Adam Wharton, will these two players actually help the team score more goals? That is the real issue. Chelsea do not simply need talented midfielders. Under Xabi Alonso, the objective must be to build a team capable of controlling matches, creating chances, dominating possession in the right areas and turning that control into goals. Scott and Wharton could potentially help Chelsea achieve several of those objectives, but neither should be viewed simply as a solution to the club's goal-scoring problem. Alex Scott is the more versatile of the two. His ability to operate in different midfield roles could make him particularly interesting to Alonso. He can contribute to possession, progression and attacking combinations, while his Premier League experience makes him a relatively straightforward player to integrate into a Chelsea squad. Wharton, meanwhile, offers a different profile. The Crystal Palace midfielder is highly regarded for his passing, composure and ability to influence the rhythm of a game. Chelsea have been linked with him repeatedly, and Sky Sports has previously reported that the Blues admire the midfielder. That means Chelsea could potentially be looking at two midfielders who complement each other rather than two players who perform exactly the same job. But would that automatically produce more goals? No. And that distinction is extremely important. Chelsea supporters have seen their team create periods of excellent football without always converting that dominance into enough goals. Adding midfield quality can improve the number and quality of chances, but the final responsibility still belongs to the attacking players. If Alonso wants Chelsea to become more dangerous in front of goal, Scott and Wharton could help build the platform. They could help Chelsea win possession higher up the pitch. They could help Chelsea move the ball faster. They could help Chelsea control transitions. They could help Chelsea supply attacking players in better positions. But Chelsea would still need their forwards and attacking midfielders to finish the work. This is where Alonso's tactical vision becomes important. The Spanish coach has already made it clear that Chelsea must continue to improve. Sky Sports reported earlier in the summer that Alonso believes Chelsea have a strong squad, but that it can still be improved, with midfield identified as one of the areas requiring attention. That philosophy explains why the potential pursuit of Scott and Wharton makes sense. Chelsea are not simply looking for famous names. They are looking for players capable of making the team stronger, and that is exactly why supporters should examine the potential £170 million investment carefully. Spending £170 million on two midfielders would be a huge commitment. Chelsea would need both players to become important parts of the starting 11. There would be little room for either player to spend long periods sitting on the bench. Scott would need to demonstrate why Chelsea were prepared to spend a substantial amount of money to sign him. Wharton would have to justify the enormous valuation that could be placed on him by Crystal Palace. Recent reports have suggested that Chelsea previously saw a £64 million bid for Scott rejected, while another report claimed Bournemouth believe an offer above £80 million could test their resolve. Wharton could also command a major fee. Chelsea have already been involved in discussions with Crystal Palace, and reports have suggested Palace could demand around €100 million for the midfielder. Put those figures together, and it becomes easy to understand how a combined investment approaching £170 million could become part of the conversation. However, Chelsea must be careful. There is a difference between improving a squad and simply spending money because talented players are available. The first question should always be tactical. What does Alonso need? If Alonso wants a midfielder who can dictate possession from deeper positions, Wharton makes sense. If he wants a player capable of operating between midfield and attack while contributing energy and versatility, Scott could make sense. If he wants both qualities, signing both players could provide Chelsea with an impressive midfield structure. But there is still another question. Would Chelsea be better spending part of that money on a goalscorer? That is where the debate among supporters will become extremely interesting. Imagine Chelsea spending £170 million on Scott and Wharton. The midfield could become stronger. The ball could move more efficiently. The team could become harder to press. The defence could receive greater protection. But if the forwards continue missing chances, Chelsea could still struggle to turn performances into victories. This is why supporters should not judge these transfers exclusively by goals and assists. Midfielders can influence goals without scoring them. A pass before the final pass can be just as important as the assist itself. A midfielder winning possession can create a goal. A midfielder breaking a defensive line can create an opportunity. A midfielder carrying the ball through pressure can open space for a winger. A midfielder controlling possession can force an opponent deeper. These details do not always appear in a basic goals and assists statistic. Wharton in particular could offer Chelsea control. Scott could offer mobility and versatility. Together they could give Alonso more tactical options. Chelsea could potentially play with a deeper controller, a progressive midfielder and attacking players operating ahead of them. That would allow the manager to change the structure depending on the opponent. Against a low block, Chelsea could use Scott higher up. Against a strong pressing team, Wharton could become particularly valuable because of his composure and passing. Against teams that attack aggressively, both players could help Chelsea transition from defence into attack. This is where the potential double signing becomes interesting. It is not necessarily about buying two players who will score 20 goals each. It is about creating the conditions for Chelsea's attacking players to score more. That distinction should be understood by every Chelsea supporter. If the club spends £170 million, supporters will naturally expect immediate impact. That pressure would be enormous. Scott would arrive under the expectation that he can become a major Premier League midfielder. Wharton would arrive with a similarly huge burden. Chelsea would need patience, but patience becomes difficult when the transfer fee is enormous. The club therefore needs to be absolutely certain about the tactical fit before completing either deal. The reports are encouraging for supporters because Chelsea have continued to maintain interest in both players. Team Talk reported that Chelsea made fresh inquiries about Scott and Wharton this month as the club considered midfield alternatives. That shows the interest is not simply something from last season. Chelsea continue to monitor both players, and the presence of Xabi Alonso makes the situation even more interesting. Alonso has inherited a squad containing several midfield options, but he wants competition and quality. The manager's philosophy requires players who can understand positioning, circulation and transitions. Scott and Wharton could potentially fit into that philosophy. The biggest question is whether Chelsea can negotiate reasonable prices. Bournemouth have already shown resistance regarding Scott. Palace have similarly strong negotiating power with Wharton. Both clubs know Chelsea have considerable financial resources. Both clubs know Chelsea need midfield quality. That combination can make negotiations extremely expensive. Chelsea therefore need to negotiate intelligently. If the Blues immediately agree to every valuation, they risk paying a premium. If they negotiate too aggressively, they could lose the players. This is why the idea of peaceful negotiations is important. Chelsea do not necessarily need to turn these transfers into confrontational negotiations.